I call the member for Kooyong.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. You can learn a lot about a politician by asking who are their political heroes. If you ask the members opposite, they'll point to two men. Paul Keating, who gave us the recession we had to have, and Gough Whitlam, who drove this country near to bankruptcy and had to borrow money from Saddam Hussein to save this country. Who do we, on this side of politics, look to as our political heroes? We look to Margaret Thatcher. And what did Margaret Thatcher say? The problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. We look to Ronald Reagan. What did Ronald Reagan say about the socialist approach to the economy? If something moves, they regulate it. If it keeps moving, they tax it. And if it stops moving, they subsidise it. Who else do we look to on this side of politics as our political heroes? John Howard and Peter Costello. And what did they do, Madam Deputy Speaker? They paid back $96 billion of Labor debt. What did they do? They overcame Beazley's $10 billion black hole. What did they do? They had produced the lowest inflation and unemployment rates in decades. What did they do? They had the vision to create a $50 billion future fund and a $5+ billion higher education endowment fund. The best way you can help somebody is you can help them get a job. And the best way you can help a person get a job is by creating a strong economy. Because at the end of the day, governments have great responsibilities. We've heard about defence, we've heard about the environment, we've heard about health. But if you don't run the economy well, you won't be left with able to support the Australian people. That is why I rise to support the Tax Laws Amendment 2010, Measures Number 4
pleased
Bill.
the members finally got to the motion before
Madam
the House.
Deputy Speaker,
Madam Deputy Speaker,
the insertion of a new Schedule 8 will provide tax receipts to individual taxpayers. It will ensure that the ATO is required to accompany a notice of an assessment with an individual with a receipt showing how that tax was paid for a particular financial year and how that money was spent on the key categories of government expenditure. And importantly, it will also show the level of Australian government net debt. But why do those members opposite don't support this bill? The reason is, because they don't want to let the Australian people on a big secret, that we are borrowing $100 million a day, because they don't believe that it's Australian taxpayers who know how best to spend their money, and because they don't want to explain to the Australian people why a desperate Rudd government had to resort to a mining tax. They don't want to let the Australian people know why a desperate Gillard government wants to run to a carbon tax. They don't want to explain to the Australian people why they want to cut the health insurance rebate. And they don't want to explain to the Australian people why they're not prepared to support independent and Catholic schools. And this should be no surprise. This should be no surprise, because if you look at this government's record, let's remember the member for Griffith, who's departed this chamber, went to the 2007 election promising to be a fiscal conservative, but he's never stuck to his word. Instead, he wasted billions of dollars on the tragic Pink Bats program. $43 billion that they plan to spend on the NBN, the catastrophic green loan scheme, and we all know about the BER scheme and the huge wastage that has taken place there. Madam Deputy Speaker, when you look at their economic record and when you look at their economic team, Julia Gillard, the Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, the Treasurer and the Assistant Treasurer, they don't have any small business experience. They don't have the economic record to stand on. Thank you.
The member's time has expired.